What's up, guys, and welcome to the weekly Q&A. Kook Shanty asks what we think happened to Cad Bane. Will we ever see what happened to him?
So I think that because we saw that rough version of him at Celebration in the shootout with Boba Fett, I do think that probably did happen. And your question, I think you referred to it as not canon, and I'd put it in a canon gray area. I think it probably did happen in their minds, but it's also open to change down the line if it makes sense. But I don't know if he's dead or not.
Yeah.
Because Boba was shot in the head, and of course his helmet saved him. All we saw was Cad Bane's hat fall. Maybe that was his death, maybe not. But I guess I do hope that we see him again, because I don't want his death to be off screen, even though we did technically see it. I think that's a character that deserves to come back. I really like Cad Bane, so I do hope that, he comes back in the future, and maybe he still has a shootout with Boba Fett, and we just get the fully canon version of it or something.
Yeah, his Funko Pop was exclusive, so I take that as being he's gonna come back at some point.
You're gonna put your tinfoil hat on and say if they're willing to make toys of him.
Oh, so was the Ghost Qui-Gon Funko Pop.
Oh, you're right. We need to go through all of our Funko Pop and decide what they all mean, which none of them mean anything.
All right.
But yeah, I feel like we're going to see him again. I at least hope that we haven't seen the last of him. I don't think that he's going to show up in the 7th season of the Clone Wars. I would love it if they do that arc, because that's an arc we don't know all that much about. I've been speculating that they're going to do the 2 story reels that they've already done in Siege of Mandalore, and all 3 of those, I think they're going to go that way because they were close to being finished. But we know those stories, so I would love it if they, instead of doing the Crystal Crisis arc, did the one about Cad Bane and Boba Fett instead. I think that'd be really cool.
I could see him also coming back in the comics.
Yeah.
Like the Age of the Eras.
Yeah,
comics.
Age of Republic, I guess it would be.
Yeah.
That kind of reminds me that they have been taking stories that they were going to do, like the Darth Maul stuff in season 7 they turned into the Son of Dathomir comic. The Ahsoka book mentions a lot of stuff from the Siege of Mandalore. Dark Disciple was going to be a Clone Wars arc, like a huge arc. Mm-hmm. So I definitely think it's possible that maybe after the 7th season, when they're like, all right, we're done with the Clone Wars, let's take all these other arcs we were going to do, and here's a comic for that and a book for that, and I think that'd be a great idea.
Yeah. Let's hope for Elliot's sake.
Yeah.
Battlefront updates, he comes back.
He does love Cad Bane.
I Rebel wants to know if we think Lucasfilms should keep their current pattern of content surrounding new movies, including 1 novel, 1 young adult book, 1 one-shot comic, adaptations, and so on. How would we change it if we could?
Molly was reading that like, this is a long question. Yeah, but I think that's an interesting point to bring up, is that, they do have the same strategy pretty much every time, except Force Awakens and The Last Jedi leading up to, they each had the Journey to series. But yeah, for the most part, I've been really happy with the content surrounding the movies. I could do without the one-shot comics, because the C-3PO one is the only one I read that I was like, that was good. Mm-hmm. The DJ one, I forget what the Rogue one, it was Cassian and K2. I didn't really like that one. And the one about Beckett, I didn't really like. So I can do with something else there. But the young adult books, the novels, they've all been really great.
Yeah.
I've got no problem with the way that they do content surrounding the movies. What I wish they would do is more content that have nothing to do with the movies. And they're doing that here and there with books like Thrawn or Ahsoka. But I want some full-on series. Mm-hmm. Let's get a Phantom Squadron series of books going. I miss my X-Wing books, so let's bring that back.
Yeah.
Chuck Wendig already set us up for basically a new Wraith Squadron, so I'd love them to start doing more that are just strictly this is a book series. And sure, there might be Easter eggs in a movie or a TV show or something, but for the most part, you're going to get this story in the book, and that's it.
I agree. And the adaptations, I do really enjoy those, just because they allow me to enjoy the movie a little bit better, just with minor details. So
I remember you really loved the Rogue One one.
Yeah, the Rogue One book, the novelization, gave you so much more insight into what Jen was thinking. She had a lot more inner monologue, and the Last Jedi comic, the stuff with Luke's last thoughts and everything, all that was really great.
Yeah. Would you change anything about how they release content around the movies?
I don't think so. I mean, you're right about the one-shot comics. Those are just okay.
Yeah, I still think the Beckett one-shot should have been about Enfys Nest. Like, we got plenty of Beckett in the movie. Enfys Nest was the character that we didn't get to see a whole lot of, and then there was like this reveal, it's a young girl.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't that have been better to see what Enfys Nest was doing in one issue before Solo, instead of like, there's Beckett and Rio and Val doing another job?
Yeah.
Like,
I think that they probably did that on purpose because they're gone now. Those characters are gone now, and they probably have a lot of potential with Enfys Nest, so maybe we'll get something bigger out of her. Dan Poulart asks what we think happened to the Force-sensitive children from Star Wars Rebels. Were they trained by Luke?
I think that after that episode where, like, the Inquisitors are hunting kids and then the Ghost Crew saves them all, I just imagine they went on living their lives. I mean, at that point in time, there aren't really Jedi. There's definitely no training set up for them. I think that they just went into hiding.
Mm-hmm.
I doubt that they were trained by Luke. I mean, I don't know. I figure that there were far more than just those 2 or 3 kids
yeah.
that are Force sensitive. I mean, even The Last Jedi shows that, like, there are Force sensitive kids out there that need to be trained. So it's possible that Luke found and trained some of them, or like maybe they sought him out, but I don't know. I think it's more likely that it was just a whole other group of Force sensitive people that he put together.
Yeah, I mean, there's cases like Maz Kanata, who is Force sensitive to a degree, but she just kind of lives her life.
Yeah. The way she was. She's a Force sensitive, like, pirate queen. I mean, there are more options than just being a Jedi. I think they're probably just regular folks that have the Force.
Yeah.
Untrained, but stronger than they know.
Yeah. David Hunt wants to know if we'll ever get a story with Rex and Luke discussing Anakin. Will Luke ever learn about Ezra or Kanan?
I don't know that we're going to get a full-on story about that. I guess I could kind of see it maybe as like a Star Wars Adventures comic, where it's just a really short little thing where it's like, oh, look, it's Luke and Rex together and they're on a little adventure and they talk a little bit about Anakin. I could see that. I think that it'll probably more likely just happen as a throwaway line where Luke mentions that he met a clone trooper that knew his father, that served with his father.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can infer from that, yeah, they talked and they met and that's cool. I don't know that we need like a full-on story dedicated to that.
Yeah, I don't see Rex probing Luke too much about his family
yeah,
or the past.
I could see him just being like, Skywalker, eh?
Mm-hmm.
And like just wistfully looking off.
Yeah,
I see Luke maybe asking him, what was my father like? I could see that happening, but yeah, I agree with you that I don't think Rex would be like, boy, do I have some crap to tell you.
What about Luke ever learning about Ezra Kanan?
Again, I think yes, especially the way that he learned about the Rogue One crew in the comics. I think that someone could probably tell him about this other Jedi that they knew, like especially if he meets Hera, which is totally a possibility, and now that I think about it, should happen. I'm sure they would talk about it, and she'd be like, man, it sure is a bummer Kanan's dead and Ezra's missing, because then someone would be there to help you train a little more. But
yeah,
I think that all of those things are plausible. I just don't know that we're gonna like see it in a dedicated story.
What if, okay, my tinfoil hat's coming back on.
Okay.
What if...
You want to get the Funko Pop out?
What if Hera meets Luke and Jason, their son, is Force sensitive and goes and trains with Luke, but then becomes one of the Knights of Ren and is going to be in episode 9?
Could be. I mean, I do see that link as being it's very possible, because I do think that there's a huge chance that Luke met Hera, and they heavily implied that Jason was Force sensitive in the Rebels finale. We'll have to see how old he is, but I don't think Luke would stick to that, like, he's too old rule, because Luke started training when he was 19. So, yeah. And it sounds like Kylo Ren started training when he was pretty old too. I think I'd be bummed if Kanan's son became a Knight of Ren. That sounds like a real bummer for his legacy.
Yeah.
But
it's either that or he was killed, or maybe he escaped. Yeah. I don't know.
It's like, if he joins Luke's training academy, it just doesn't end well for him. So I'm hoping
maybe he's undercover.
Maybe.
All right, we're getting off topic.
Yeah, what have you done?
Angelique Gwen asks what the behind-the-scenes information was in that Lend Me video that you played off.
I wrote it all down for you. So, yeah, and I mean, that video was played for comedy. If you haven't seen it, I did a video about the character that made me lose the Dragon Con Star Wars trivia contest, and I lost to my friend, Zach. He came over, we did a video together, and basically he was giving me behind-the-scenes information, but I covered up his words with Hello Darkness, My Old Friend, or The Sound of Silence, that's the name of the song, so that I could be sad about it. But then a lot of people commented and were like, I want to actually know that. So here it is. In the game Star Wars Demolition, if the player wins the game as Malakili, his victory movie shows Lin Mi fed to Jabba's Rancor. As Demolition takes place during Return of the Jedi when Leia frees Han, Lin Mi possibly met this fate before Luke arrives in the palace and Jabba's entourage go onto the sail barge. This conflicts with the books saying the Max Rebo band survived the sail barge led by Lin Mi and Greta. So, yeah, I feel like that little bit of information is non-canon for the game Star Wars Demolition only. I think that Lin Mi probably did survive, and as legend has it, she vowed revenge against Luke for killing Boba Fett. That's it for patron questions. If you're a patron and you didn't see your question answered here, just head over to Patreon where we left you a written response. If you're not a patron, you can learn more by following the link in the description. Just $1 a month gets you access to extra Star Wars Explained content like audio commentaries for the films, or our right now patron-only podcast Between Two Suns, and the combined donations really go a long way in supporting the channel.
On to YouTube questions. Mitwit Gaming asks who or what we think the main antagonist of Master and Apprentice will be. That's the book coming out early next year about Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon.
Yeah, by Claudia Gray. Woo! I guess my hope is that it's Death Watch. I would like to see the story of Obi-Wan and Satine and Qui-Gon on the run for a year while she is being hunted to be assassinated, which I can't remember if they said. I think they did say that was Death Watch. Off the top of my head, I can't recall, but yeah, I'd love to see some Mandalorian villains.
That would be cool.
At the time, it shouldn't be Sith at all, so it should be more of a scum and villainy kind of enemy, I think.
This isn't really... I don't think he would be an antagonist, per se, at that time in the book, but I am excited for anything involving Dooku.
I think / hope that he will be in the book. It would make a lot of sense. I don't think he had left the Order at that time. At least he hadn't in Star Wars Legends. So, yeah, I think it would be great to have Dooku in the book playing still like a mentor role to Qui-Gon and maybe even Obi-Wan to a degree. I'd love to see some more Dooku. Yeah,
in the newly updated visual dictionary, there's a couple of extra lines, both in Qui-Gon's and Obi-Wan's character descriptions that... hint a little bit more towards what they were like during training. So, I don't know, to me that kind of felt like, oh, maybe we'll see or read a little bit about Dooku training Qui-Gon in the book. Star Wars Network wants to know which time period in canon and Legends is our favorite and why.
Right now, for me, it's in both canon and Legends, it's the Galactic Civil War. I love the fight between the Rebels and the Empire. I love the Rebels. I'm a Rebel fanboy, so I think that's always going to be my favorite.
I have to agree. Boring answer, but yeah.
I mean, the benefit in Legends is that it went on longer. That's I get a question a lot like, what's one thing you would change in the new canon if you could? I would make the Galactic Civil War last longer beyond the Battle of Endor. I liked the way that the Empire slowly fractured and they had all these warlords, and there's still kind of room to do that in canon, but I don't know. The fact that they surrendered 1 year later, it just seems so quick. I wish that there were more of a middle ground where, I don't know, 5-10 years more. I think Legends, it was like 25 years, which is a long time, but I don't know, a little longer. I would have been fine with that.
Yeah. Once we do our Clone Wars rewatch, I might be swayed to the prequel era, just because I don't know as much about the prequel era. I mean, I do know a lot about it, but it's been forever since I've watched all of the Clone Wars. So I don't know. I don't want the prequel meme Reddit people to come after us
to hate us. I think it's too late for that.
Oh. Joseph Simpson asks what non-movie character we think has the best chance at appearing in episode 9. Well, I already said Jason Syndulla, so that's my answer. No. I think Kasha maybe from the book Last Shot. She is with Lando.
Yeah.
And Lando's going to be a 9. So.
I think that's a good guess. I think someone has asked about this before. This feels familiar. But yeah, I think that makes sense because it would be pretty easy to just have Lando with a Twilight girl with him. Mm-hmm. I don't think it would take too much explanation to just be like, this is my wife, Kasha. And we can all move on. And like, we will all be excited because, Kasha, she has a backstory already.
Yeah.
But just movie fans will be like, okay, cool. It's Lando's alien wife. Great.
Yeah. And they might be excited to see that he settled down.
Yeah. I want to go with Shriv. I like him a lot in Battlefront 2, and I think he would be a really easy character to get in there because, I mean, it's just a Duros mask, and like, if you put the right shirt on him, sure, that can be Shriv. He doesn't even have to say anything. I'd love it if he said something because he's hilarious. But...
yeah, there's a lot of folks on Twitter that are rallying to get him into
very pro Shriv.
More content.
Yeah. He was in a Star Wars adventure comic, which I was thrilled about that. So yeah, let's bring Shriv into more. Just, I don't know. There's a lot of characters like that where I'm just like, you can have them in the background. Harrison Dula, which in the actual question was suggested. I think that works. Yes, have a green Twi'lek in the background. She doesn't even have to say anything, but we'll know.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's enough for me.
Zarliak wants to know if we think Leia will survive episode 9.
I'm kind of 50-50 on this. I'll say that my hope is that she does. But it all comes down to, I think, what the footage is that they have. And I just don't think she's going to be in the movie all that much, which is fine. But my hope is that, yeah, she makes it.
Yeah, I agree. Just because I don't want to sob uncontrolledly in the theater. And again, it all depends on what kind of footage they have to work with. But I could see JJ somehow fitting her story in to a point where she just goes off and, is doing something else that makes sense, hopefully, for the story.
I guess my thought is that she may have died off screen during the in-between times, and then like I've said before that maybe we'll have like hologram footage of her just being inspirational post-mortem.
Again, sobbing.
Yeah.
In the theater.
I think that if she were to like die in the movie, I don't know, that feels like too much. No. If she is alive at the start of episode 9, I think that she probably will survive.
Yeah, after what they put us through in The Last Jedi with her being sucked out into space and everybody thinking that was going to be her death scene and it wasn't, I definitely don't think that they'll put a death scene for her in 9.
Yeah, but it's more hopes than anything, I guess.
We'll see. The Real McCoy asks if we think the story group is being prevented from telling the kinds of stories they want to tell because it might clash with upcoming films. Is this preventing creative storytelling?
This is something that I've talked about before where I think that like the Old Republic. I don't think we've explored that very much yet, because I think that they want to explore it first in a movie. I think they want to set the stage for the Old Republic in a film first, and then fill in the universe with comics and books and what have you. But I don't think that it's the story group being told what they can or can't do. I'm pretty sure they're still kind of a mysterious group, but I think that they are in charge of saying, we're going to save this for a movie, and we're going to make this a book and this a comic. So I don't think anyone is preventing them from doing what they want. I think it's probably more them saying, ooh, we're not going to do Old Republic yet. I know that somebody wants to write a book about it, but we just need to wait. So I don't know. I do see what you're saying, where I guess it can... I think it's slowing down the process a little bit for us to explore every area of Star Wars that we want to. But on the other hand, I'm kind of like, I don't know, if we're going to get a Old Republic movie, like I'm willing to be patient for that and see it on the big screen first, and like see all this new stuff on like the biggest way that we can.
Yeah.
Rather than read about it. I don't know. That's just how I feel.
Yeah. I mean, who knows how much longer the Star Wars franchise will live on. You know, it's been around since the 70s, and I'm fine with the story group taking their time, because I want content to last, and I want it to keep going, and I want it to be creative. So I don't really think that they're being held back creatively. I just think that they're hopefully taking their time and deciding when to use which stories at the right time.
Yeah, I guess I don't see it, like you said, so much a creative thing where they're not letting storytellers tell the stories they want. It's more they're like, we just want to wait. It's more of a timing thing, I think. This is all in my head. Yeah. I don't know.
I could definitely see a director wanting to tell a story a certain way, and then the story group saying, well, that might limit us in this way or something like that. But
yeah, I mean, I know that so when I talked to E.K. Johnston last year about her Ahsoka book, she said that the story group at one point, I think, had her change something in the book because they were like, oh, we're basically doing this in Rebels. And so then she did have to adjust a little bit just so we weren't getting like the same story twice.
Yeah.
That's what I think their main role is to make sure that stories don't step on other stories' feet, and that we're not just treading the same ground over and over again. But no, I don't think the story group is being prevented from doing the things they want to do.
Yeah.
That's all the time we have for questions today. If you want to leave a question for next week's video, just put it in the comments below, or sign up for Patreon to join our weekly Q&A discussion. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel,
and follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.